parentage, custody. She will share the do's and don'ts of being witnessed. And then we will all give her round robin feedback of how well we understand. I sent her my comments. I said, well, the only thing I knew about being a witness is what I learned watching Perry Mason with my dad. I'm sure that behind the scenes preparing for the proceeding is a lot more important and probably what Angel will cover. So please welcome Angel.
How many of you have watched an episode of Ironside? How about Law and Order? And you see those people on the stand being asked questions, and they're so poised. There's a lot of writers that go into that, a lot of scripting. But in family law cases, there is oftentimes a trial, and it's usually, it can be anywhere from a year to a year and a half, even 3 years down the road from when the case started. Hopefully, cases settle. Hopefully, people come to some agreements. But if they can't, and sometimes often they don't, we need to do a court hearing. And a court hearing isn't a place for testimony. It's a place where both parties are represented, and the judge has already read, or the court commissioner has already read, many of the statements and documentation that's going to support each person's side. And that court commissioner is going to make a decision based on the documentation in front of them and the oral argument from attorneys or pro se litigants. So there's a lot that goes into litigation. There's a lot that goes into a case, but it really comes to people having their day in court and being able to share their perspective. I kind of am of the frame of mind that you don't really have a choice. We live. We are good citizens, and part of being a good citizen, we will occasionally have to write a witness statement or perform jury duty. And while we think in our minds about Ironside and Law and Order and the truth and the justice of it all, many times it's really like being in an episode of All in the Family, where there you are in someone's living room, in the minutia of their day-to-day life, trying to make heads or tails. But the beautiful part is you do not, as a witness, have to weigh in on what side you're going to take. You can just tell your portion of that story, and that's what makes a witness so credible. When they don't overreach their boundaries into what they know, but they don't really know. So the important thing is that you be truthful. First of all, the truth is always easier to remember. Only include in a written statement what you know, what you have seen with your own eyes, heard with your own ears, directly about that incident. Just to give you a little example, I'll give you, I'll read this. This is a statement that a gal wrote. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just one paragraph. On April 9th, 2016, approximately 3 p.m., there was a knock at my front door. I reside with David. I opened the door and Carla was standing there. My 10-year-old daughter was standing behind me. Carla asked, "Where's my kids?" And I told her they were not here. Carla raised her voice and got red in the face, and Carla used foul language and tried to push her way in. Carla threatened to call the police. I told her to go ahead and that I would make her a cup of coffee. I tried to speak calmly to Carla, but I was shaking. I did not want to upset my daughter, and I shut the door. She's just saying what she knows. She's not saying Carla's crazy. She's just describing her perspective, how clean, how pristine, this date, this happened, I felt like this. She was shaking. Here's one that's probably not a good example. This is from Grandma. I know for a fact that there were many, many times that David would come home from work after working all a long day, and she would start in on him, telling him he had to fix dinner because she didn't have to do it. She would tell him he needed to do laundry and different chores, and he was the one that would fix the lunches in the morning before he went off to school for work. And that happened for a long time. What? That's so muddy. I know for a fact. Really? What day? Were you there? What's the detail of that? So I think as a witness statement, there are things that we know, that we just know we know. But if you think about it, how do we really know that? Let's be real. Do I really know that? I can surmise, of course. So as a witness, you only want to tell the things that you really know. On this date, I saw this. Many times I go over the house, it'd be in the afternoon, and I would see Mom making sandwiches and packing lunches and talking about nutritional value. Okay, good, then you know that. But just knowing doesn't make it so. When you prepare a witness statement, you also have to realize the big picture. The big picture, the judge isn't asking you for your opinion. Who are you? Who am I? My opinion of this family situation isn't being sought. What I've seen of this family is being sought. I see the dad out in the front yard playing with the kids. You know, I see him teaching his kids how to ride bikes. Or I see the mom out gardening and talking about the different plants. I see the kids doing chores. You know, that's important. What you see, the little tiny sliver. Because the judge, he's up there, or she's up there, and they've got to make a decision. They've already heard mom's side and dad's side. They're looking for something that gives it a little bit of strength. Who does most of the parenting? What are the issues? What's going to strengthen that? Everyday statements from different perspectives kind of help that judge make a decision. That's why it's so important that you only tell what you know and be truthful about what you say. You can always testify later at trial if it goes that far, but a lot of times everything gets settled in a family court setting because people come to some agreements. When people come forward making witness statements, it basically takes a lot of wind out of the drama cell, and the real issues can be uncovered. It's important that you keep your eye on the focus, because the focus is the children, or that issue at hand. What's that focus? So if you're a family member, you don't want to alienate the other parent, because what happens at the end? You want to be able to have contact with your grandchildren. You don't want to totally obliterate that other parent and degrade them so much that they don't want you around their children. In litigation, everybody's digging in. They're digging deep holes, and they're trying to bury the other person. At the end, at some point, we've got to build a bridge. When we build that bridge to come back, we want to make sure there's land on the other side. So this is very important as a witness, that you keep the balance and the focus. It makes you more credible when you're not giving your opinion. It makes you more credible when you're telling the truth. It makes you more credible when you're giving specifics. And it makes you more credible when you're not disparaging the other side. A lot of times early on in litigation, everybody's trying to dig in. They want mom or dad, they each want to have custody and control of these children. And what's really telling is once the dust settles, if the grandparents and the family members can be in that neutral position, then I think the judges get the flavor that there's a voice of reason here, and that we can share these parenting responsibilities. So it's very important if someone asks you to write a witness statement, that you ask, what focus are we looking at? What's the objective here? Is this about the incident on 4th of July? Is this about how she got hurt out in the yard? Is this about parenting? What is it you need? I can tell you what I've seen, what I've heard with my own ears. The important thing is, always statements are written under penalty of perjury. And I get this a lot, where people will say, well, he's lying, or she's lying. Really? Or is it just their perspective? Her perspective or his perspective may be different, but it's their perspective. Nobody's going to get in trouble if they tell their perspective. So just tell the truth. So important, and I would encourage you all, if you're asked, don't shy away. Be a witness, be a citizen, be a human being. Thank you.